Welcome to this deep dive. I mean, if you look at the headlines today, you'll see this whole generation, Gen Z mostly, often labeled as, fragile.
Right, or unfocused.
Yeah, unfocused or prone to quiet quitting. That's a huge one right now.
Oh, absolutely. You see it everywhere.
But today, our mission is to really peel back those labels and diagnose what is actually happening, because we're witnessing this massive structural collision between a real-time, hyper-accelerated civilization and a biological mind that is, frankly, still anchored in ancient rhythms.
It's a complete mismatch.
It really is. And the foundation for our conversation today is Sandeep Chavan's incredibly insightful 2026 book, Structural Diagnosis of Gen Z Realism.
Such an important text.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are moving beyond judgment and into diagnosis, because burnout in 2026 isn't an individual failure of resilience, right? It's not a bad attitude. It is a predictable, systemic response to a world that literally never pauses.
Yeah, and I want to tell you, if you're listening right now, whether you are Gen Z yourself, or maybe you manage them, or honestly, if you're just feeling the crush of modern information overload, this deep dive is going to completely reframe how you view your own daily exhaustion.
I know, it did for me. I mean, to understand why we are burning out, we first have to look at the machinery we are working with, like how it was originally programmed to function.
Exactly. So Chavan makes this compelling argument that the human nervous system just did not evolve for the 2026 hypersaturated information landscape.
Which makes sense when you think about it.
Right. For thousands of years, we're talking of over 50,000 years of human history, life was defined by linear time and very rhythmic cycles.
Like day and night, summer and winter.
Yes. Effort was followed by rest.
Yes.
Uncertainty was followed by resolution. So our stress response system, the thing we now just call anxiety, was designed to be episodic.
Episodic, meaning it has a clear endpoint.
Correct. It activated for immediate physical threats, a predator in the bushes, and then it naturally returned to equilibrium once that threat passed.
So you run away from the tiger, and then you're safe, and your body calms down.
Exactly. The cortisol clears out. But today, we live in what Chavan calls the acceleration environment.
The acceleration environment.
Right. Because in the past, you had to actually seek out information. You had to go get a newspaper. Today, information searches for you.
Oh, wow. That's a great way to put it. It hunts you down.
It literally does. It hunts you down through persistent notifications and these endless algorithmic feeds.
So it's basically like we're trying to run a real-time civilization on an analog biological architecture.
That is exactly what we are doing.
But wait, let me push back a little here. If our brains are so adaptable, I mean, we evolved to survive so much, why haven't we just gotten used to the notifications by now? Aren't we highly adaptable creatures?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the brain actually interprets this new environment. It doesn't just get used to it. Chavan explains this concept of ambient stress.
Ambient stress, like it's just always there in the background.
Exactly. Because the information never stops, the brain interprets abstract digital uncertainties with the exact same biological intensity our ancestors felt toward a physical predator.
Wait, really? So my brain thinks a Slack message is a tiger?
Biologically speaking, yes. Whether it's social comparison, career instability, or, a global crisis you just saw in your feed, your body reacts with that same fight-or-flight intensity. We are locked in a state of constant vigilance.
That sounds exhausting. So if we are locked in the state of constant vigilance, what happens to our natural recovery cycle?
It gets entirely hijacked. And this is a huge part of the problem.
I mean, I think about earlier eras, and life just naturally allowed for psychological recovery. There was dead time.
Dead time is so crucial.
Right? You had these periods of stillness where you could just internalize experiences. Stabilize your sense of self, like waiting for a bus and just staring out the window.
Yeah, and Chavan points out that Gen Z is the first population to grow up in an environment where that dead time has been entirely eradicated.
Because we just pull out our phones.
Exactly. Moments of boredom, waiting in line, sitting on that bus, they've been replaced by stimulation that is just disguised as rest.
Disguised as rest, that's so true. You think you're relaxing on the couch, but you're really not.
Not at all. Chavan asserts that even when your body is physically inactive, say you're just scrolling on the couch, your mind remains in intense performance mode.
Doing what exactly? Just processing the videos.
It's way more than that. It is managing digital identities, scanning global achievements, and engaging in this endless rapid-fire social comparison.
Which is invisible mental labor.
Huge amounts of it.
Yeah.
And the biological consequence is severe. Psychological integration requires time, right? And time is just no longer available.
So the recovery is never finished.
Right. Because this recovery remains incomplete, the brain is actively prevented from entering deep cognitive repair.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this entirely changes the definition of burnout.
It completely redefines it.
It's no longer about physical overwork. It's not about lifting heavy boxes for 12 hours. It's about a biological system that is left running hot until it eventually breaks.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, society heavily judges this generation for being exhausted while supposedly doing less physical labor.
Oh, you hear it all the time, the whole "you just type on a laptop, why are you tired" thing.
Exactly. But that judgment completely ignores the massive metabolic cost of this invisible, continuous cognitive engagement.
It takes actual physical energy to process all that data.
Massive amounts of glucose, yes.
So this invisible cognitive engagement isn't just about socializing. It is a profound change in how human intelligence operates just to survive high-frequency information.
It is a survival mechanism. Chavan notes that modern intelligence operates within an unprecedented informational abundance.
Which sounds like a good thing, right? Infinite information.
Well, it empowers possibility, sure, but it creates an immense cognitive load. It's too much for the brain to handle deeply.
So we developed what Chavan calls scanning as adaptive intelligence.
Yes. To survive, the modern mind has developed this radar-like system. It moves rapidly between inputs just to remain relevant in a really fast-moving field.
But wait, so when you're flipping between 10 tabs, a group chat, and a video, you're not distracted. You're triaging. I mean, isn't that just letting ourselves off the hook for having terrible attention spans?
This raises an important question, and it's a common critique. But Chavan clarifies that this is not a failure of discipline. It is a necessary environmental adaptation.
Because the environment demands it.
Right. The mind is making hundreds of micro decisions daily. You are constantly deciding which notification to ignore, which trend to follow, what requires an immediate response.
That sounds like it takes a toll.
It takes a heavy, energetic price. What older generations mislabel as a short attention span is actually attention fatigue.
Attention fatigue. So it's not that we can't focus, it's that we're too tired to.
Exactly. The mind withdraws focus not because it is lazy, but because it is cognitively saturated. There is literally no space left.
So we just default to skimming.
Yes, we are in a reactive biological state. And that state often bypasses the prefrontal cortex's ability to process complex emotions.
Meaning we stay in a state of shallow processing.
Exactly. Deep processing requires energy that we've already spent triaging notifications.
So if the individual is actually adapting intelligently to a chaotic environment, why are they the ones being blamed for breaking down? I mean, this brings us to the collision between human speed and institutional speed.
It's the core conflict of our era.
So what does this all mean? Chavan argues, and I think so passionately, that we must stop personalizing structural transitions as individual weakness.
It's such a vital shift in perspective. Burnout in 2026 is actually environmental feedback.
Like a warning light on a dashboard?
Exactly. It is a signal indicating that our current societal structures extract energy and attention continuously, and they do it without providing closure or stability.
And Chavan uses two terms here that I think explain this perfectly: the productivity paradox and structural lag.
Yes, these are crucial concepts to understand the friction we're feeling.
So digital speed and cultural trends have accelerated infinitely. We have AI, instant communication, everything is hyper fast.
But institutions like schools, corporations, legal systems, even career pathways, they adapt incredibly slowly.
So that's the structural lag.
Exactly. And the collision happens because Gen Z is working harder than ever to meet algorithmic benchmarks and digital expectations.
But those benchmarks offer no meaningful real-world progress or stability.
Right. They are living in overlapping timelines. You have an incredibly fast digital culture on one hand and a slow, rigid institutional reality on the other.
It's like being told to run at the speed of light, but your feet are stuck in industrial-era concrete.
That is a perfect analogy. A generation operating at a metabolic deficit while trying to keep pace with a world that never pauses is not lazy. They are systemically exhausted.
It's just a fundamental incompatibility.
And this friction is exactly what generates the immense social tension we see today. It's why people feel so trapped.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the mismatch. We see the lack of recovery, the cognitive saturation, and the structural failure. But how do we, as individuals actually navigating this, fix it?
We have to move beyond the typical advice.
Yeah, I noticed that the usual advice, just put your phone away for the weekend, is fundamentally inadequate.
It really is.
Yeah.
A digital detox is just a temporary Band-Aid for a structural problem. You come back on Monday and the structure hasn't changed.
Right, the emails are still there, the notifications are still hunting you.
Exactly. So Chavan introduces this solution of structural realignment. We have to develop what he calls structural intelligence.
Which means understanding the relationship between our biological limits and the systems we inhabit.
Yes, it's about how you interface with the system, knowing your own limits. He breaks this down into 3 pillars of realignment.
The first one is cognitive sovereignty.
Right. This means we must intentionally design stabilizing structures in our daily lives.
So setting real boundaries.
But it's more than that. It's understanding that real mastery depends on duration, not just speed.
Like taking the time to actually learn something deeply.
Exactly. We have to learn to distinguish between the fast cycle of visibility, looking busy online, and the slow cycle of actual capability and growth.
That makes a lot of sense. And the second pillar is adaptive stability.
This one is more about the organizations. We need institutions that prioritize human sustainability over short-term algorithmic benchmarks.
So workplaces and schools need to evolve.
They must. They need to absorb change gradually rather than demanding constant, frantic pivoting from their people. Humans aren't software updates.
Right. We can't just download a patch and instantly work differently. And then the third pillar is pacing.
Pacing is about accepting that progress must obey time.
Okay, but let me ask you this. How does the listener practically enforce pacing when their boss or their industry demands instant availability? If you tell your boss you're pacing yourself, you might get fired.
It's the hardest part to implement. But using the text principles, you do it by anchoring your identity in internal capability rather than external visibility.
So focusing on being actually good at your job, not just looking fast.
Yes, you have to recognize that constant acceleration leads to structural drift. You make mistakes, you burn out, your work quality drops.
So you enforce pacing by delivering deep quality work that can only be done if you protect your time.
Exactly. You frame it as a necessity for high-level output, not a request for a break.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective. So wrapping up this deep dive and bringing these structural concepts back to your daily reality.
The core realization here is that Gen Z burnout, and really the burnout felt by anyone living in 2026, is just the friction between digital speed and biological limits.
It's the machinery grinding its gears.
Yes. If you feel overwhelmed, your brain is actually functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is just reacting to an environment it was never meant to live in.
Which is incredibly validating to hear. I mean, I want to leave you with a new angle to ponder, building on everything we just talked about. Think about the concept of legacy.
Legacy is fascinating in this context.
Right. For all of human history, a legacy was something built slowly over a lifetime, meant to outlast you, like a physical building or a deep body of work.
It took decades.
But in an acceleration environment where identity is fluid and memory is constantly overwritten by the algorithm, what does it actually mean to build something permanent?
It's almost impossible if you're just moving at the speed of the feed.
Exactly. If our biology demands stability, perhaps the ultimate act of rebellion in 2026 isn't moving faster than the system. It isn't optimizing your workflow to the absolute limit.
That's just playing a game you can't win.
Right. Perhaps the ultimate act of rebellion is having the courage to stand completely still.
To pace yourself, to reclaim that biological rhythm.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go about your week, we really encourage you to observe your own environmental tempo. Notice when the system is speeding you up and have the courage to slow it down.